Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, perfect. Good.
We actually are parents.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And so we've had some conversations with them.
Yeah.
Actually,
yeah.
some other folks.
Definitely. Yeah.
Especially Anthony.
Yeah.
So I know his name.
Yeah.
Anyone else have time?
No. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
Yes, and we're going to get together today, but I guess it was otherwise occupied. So we're going to catch up another time with Connie, who was here from the machine. At any rate,
So are you guys do you enable content providers?
yes, we got into it first for ourselves as a local broadcaster when we wrote the first local news.
And then it was the next year. Meanwhile, a lot of stuff has happened. I think everybody who's clued into the US market knows about media flow, the kind of DVB-H rivals and Highwire and Modio, the services that Sprint and Singular, Verizon, and now companies like Amped and Helio have all brought to market. And we've got a diverse group of panelists today to address this, this market, which is quite dynamic, but hasn't yet hockey sticked, which I think is something that everybody always kind of hopes for. So we have people representing content, technology, infrastructure providers, and I'd like to begin with just a couple baseline numbers from M-Metrics on the current state of the U.S. video market. So in the month of March, right, we saw about 6.3 million, and that's about 3.1% of mobile phone owners aged 13 and above watch some type of video on their phone. That's interesting. That 3% number is right around the range in terms of the penetration for the number of people that downloaded a game last month. So it's not peanuts by any stretch. But now when you break down that number and what people were watching, what we find is about 1.7 million. So now we're looking at about 1.3% of the market watched what we would call programmed mobile or a mobile TV or video. So that is the paid packages for the most part, right? The name brand content, or if you've checked out, you know, sort of what Amped and Helio are offering, a lot of stuff out there that is maybe not so name brand, like Fox, who we have on the panel, but is more focused on their demographic. And in that group, that 1.7 million, it skewed pretty heavily male. About 2% of males watched this program video, less than 1% of females. So just some baseline numbers as we talk. So I'd like to introduce the panelists and kind of each ask them some questions to help play out the landscape here, and then we'll have a discussion amongst ourselves and hopefully in fairly quick fashion turn it over to you to ask questions. To my left, Helene Henriksen is Vice President of Managed Hosting Sales in North America for Ericsson. And it's her responsibility to drive those managed and hosting services in North America. So that's technology, but it's also, I believe, increasingly services. And I think it's useful to start the discussion with Helene, because Helene, working for a giant company based out of Europe, I think that provides you with a perspective that is beyond just the US market. And I'm curious if you could share with us, number one, how does Ericsson make money from mobile video and TV? And number two, what are you seeing as, I wouldn't call this market turgid. What I would say is that it seems in need of some catalysts to really sort of break through into the mainstream. What do you have your eye on at Ericsson?
Ericsson, I don't think we are making that much money out of mobile TV at the moment, but we are rolling out a lot of 3G networks around the world. And of course, we and the operators want to see something filled into these networks, and that's where mobile TV and video is very important. So what we are working quite a lot on is to see sort of how can we make this usage increase a lot. And it's not only about the technology, which it's important, of course, but it's also about the usability from the access and the knowledge about having the services in the networks. We have done a project in Norway, which was very interesting, where we also combined a lot of different interactivity features into the mobile TV experience, which was blogging, SMS, and now we also do a lot of advertising and also personalized advertising. And we also see the usage is increasing, the people are coming back more often, they are staying on longer, and they are also having through with the more personalized type of advertising model we have there. And it's quite a lot higher than the normal 2%, which is what we see on the web, right?
And do you have a perspective on, there's two kind of sort of basic use cases that align with technology a little bit. There's a linear model. Maybe it's broadcast, maybe it's still unicast, but they're channels and you tune into whatever's on. And then there's the more freeform, on-demand, clip-based. Is there an Ericsson perspective on when those are appropriate, or which of those you're seeing the most traction in the market?
I think there will be a combination, because the need will be different on what type of information you want to have. And we also see the broadcast or the unicast type of solutions also being combined to serve the long tail, and where we also see the need or making use of the networks that we have rolled out there. So I think it will be a combination of the technologies, but also a combination of what type of service that the consumers will use.
I think that makes sense. To Helene's left is Sam Matheny. He's general manager of News Over Wireless. And News Over Wireless is an interesting company. If you look at the first wave going back a few years of mobile video rollouts, and then if you even look at, say, media flow, the concentration has been around big national brands, right? It's Fox Sports, it's ESPN, it's ABC News, right? Now, Sam, you folks have taken a different tact. Can you talk to us briefly about how News Over Wireless is making money out of video and mobile, and what your approach is to the market?
Yes, so what we did initially was News Over Wireless is part of a broadcasting company that owns television stations, and our approach was that we wanted to be on deck with a news solution that extended our offerings that we were putting over the air as well as online. And so once we launched that for ourselves, we then in essence became an aggregator for other television stations and have launched Java applications, WAP applications, and video channels with multiple carriers here in the US. Today we have 54 affiliates that we're working with that represent close to 70 million television households. So we've aggregated a good number that are all providing local content, and this is the content that people tune into day in and day out. It's what's happening in their neighborhood, what's happening on their drive to work, what's happening with the weather from the folks where they've been getting that information, the people that they know and trust, their local television stations. So we think that plays really well in terms of local television news being the #1 source for news in the United States, and having a roadmap to making sure as more and more people have these mobile devices on with them and have that capability of accessing that information, that the local television station remains that primary source.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also plays into something you hear a lot about in the wireless space, which is the notion of location being important to thinking about how people use the device and what they want to get out of it.
Absolutely, and we're working CBS, NBC, ABC, Fox affiliates. So these are major brands that people have relationships with. But again, it's really on the local basis.
Great. And to Sam's left is Brad Butlick, and Brad is director of DRM business development for SafeNet. And I understand that most of SafeNet's current business in the mobile video TV space is outside of the U.S. I'm just going to cut to the chase and be a little provocative here, Brad. I mean, what's happened in the music space with EMI dropping DRM. I mean, isn't DRM just a cul-de-sac and a dead end here? Or is there something else to it?
I think what needs to be done on DRM is that it's not thrown out, kind of like the baby with the bathwater. EMI is announced that they're dropping DRM. The jury's out as to whether or not that's going to be successful for them. Let's see. A lot of the other studios are still looking at DRM very seriously. And I think what has to happen is there has to be an interoperability or a standardization on the DRM market. I think DRM is a definite need. SafeNet as a company is a security company. We actually apply security in layers. We have a group that's the DRM side, which is what I do, that's protecting the content when it's sold or when it's sent to an authorized person. We also have a group that specializes in the anti-piracy. And I'll be honest with you, the piracy is still very strong in the market. So it's a lot of the studios are going to have a problem if they cannot make money content, and dropping DRM is probably going to increase piracy. At least that's what we're seeing so far.
And what is who's your customer in this mobile TV and video space, and what are they paying you money for?
Our customers right now are mostly companies like Ericsson and the aggregators that are putting the full systems together. All we are doing is specializing on the security aspect only. But there's much more to a complete package.
And you had mentioned a little while ago, I mean, because my kind of simple understanding of DRM would be, well, if I'm I could see that a content provider would want to lock that down so it couldn't be passed on without someone else paying it. But you were describing some work you've done with BT Movio, which is actually applying your technology to a broadcast.
Yeah, there's broadcast, like MediaFlow is a broadcast television type concept where they just put the signal out into the air, and if you've got a receiver that can pick it up, you can watch it. The MediaFlow is using a conditional access type solution that was made very popular in the days of cable. But in that particular time, you had complete control of the entire ecosystem. You had control of the wires, the set-top box, the broadcast head end. Now that you have broadcast over the airwaves, it's conceivable in the near term that you're going to have people with devices that are going to be purchased from somebody other than the carrier that's distributing the content. And BT Movio, for example, is using Windows Media on the Windows Media smartphones so that they can television channels to a handset. And you don't necessarily have to buy the handset from BT Movio. You just have to pay, I think it's like £5 a month for the service. And very near future, the minivans that have the DVD players in the back that right now are only playing the DVDs for your kids, you're going to be able to have broadcast television to that. It's a non-telephone device that's going to be getting broadcast television station or video.
And £5 a month. So the current exchange rate, that's like $100?
No, about $10
Yeah,
probably.
yeah.
The other thing is, from a DRM perspective, using the phone as a device to watch content. I mean, it's kind of the device of last resort. I'd much rather watch it on my 42-inch television than on my 3-inch phone. But what if I'm watching something on my phone and I get interrupted and I won't want to pause it? Well, as the phone technologies are improving and the battery lives are being extended and the processor and the amount of memory that phones can handle is increasing, the PVR on your phone is probably a reality. Or what about wanting to finish watching the movie that I might have started watching on my phone on my PC, so I can push a button and send it to the PC? At that point, it needs to be wrapped as a DRM agent, as not necessarily a conditional access agent. Great.
Sitting next to Brad is Chandra Hill, and Chandra is Executive Director of Mobile Business Operations at Fox Interactive Media. We heard from John Smeltzer from FIM a little earlier, and Chandra comes to pretty recently to Fox from AGI and oversees all the mobile content distribution partnerships for Fox. So you're dealing with lots of content, some great brands, and Fox was out there really early among content providers, kind of aggressively, experimenting with services. So your company has a long track record in the U.S. market. What does it look like to you in terms of the trajectory of the mobile video and TV market, and some of the challenges that you think we're still kind of muddling through?
Right. So Fox is still very, very bullish on video. We think that there's a huge opportunity ahead of us. And again, based on some of the brands that we have, MySpace, obviously, Fox Sports is a great property in video, IGN Entertainment, which is basically the premier for all things gaming. Mobile video has served us very, very well, and we believe that will continue. We see some of the challenges, though, in some of the packages that are available today on deck for consumers, and we'd like to see the carriers and our partners work together to lower some of those hurdles so that we can see that hockey stick that you mentioned before. So I think one of the things that we're really excited about is our partnership with Sprint. Sprint has sort of realigned their package, and as a part of their standard data package, you're going to be able to get 4 channels of video, one of which is Fox Sports. And we think that that's just a great opportunity to spread mobile video to consumers and have them really get more familiar with the product. And we're also seeing other carriers follow their lead and take an aggressive standpoint with pricing to make this more a ubiquitous play for consumers.
So kind of challenges and repackage? Primarily, or at least initially, you think it's a pricing issue?
I think that has something to do with it. I think that you know, some of the initial price points could easily have been anywhere from 40 to 50% of a consumer's sort of standard, you know, voice package, and I think that's a hurdle for some consumers. So we're looking forward to seeing some of those prices come down, and the services go up in terms of quality and the content that's available, and hopefully we'll drive some more consumption.
Yeah, it'd be good to return to pricing a little later. I mean, there are a lot of fingers in this pie, which I think is one of the realities of the way the market's currently structured. So, sitting at the end next to Chandra, Henry Linda is the president of the Americas for ActImagine, and Henry comes fairly recently to ActImagine from Thomson, right, which built a great business as kind of the licensing agent for the MP3 format. And my understanding, and you can kind of fill it in, is that the core thing that your company is doing is building better audio video encoding, decoding, and a client that does things like take care of power consumption and so on. And you've recently been shipping in phones, right, like the Motorola Z8. So maybe you can introduce us to your company a little bit and tell us what you think about this market.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I joined ActImagine just a month ago, and ActImagine is about a new video codec that gives you basically 4 times more battery life. You can also look at it differently. We play on a Nintendo Game Boy, so no NQVG. So it's about frame rates, it's about resolution, and about power consumption. And no other codec can do that today. So it's, on the one hand, you can say it's saving battery life. On the other hand, it is being able to give quality on low-powered devices. So we're inside the Nintendo Game Boy, for example. Nokia is distributing SD cards with, for example, the Godfather on it, and giving that away with the N series in Europe. And last week, Motorola announced their Media Monster, and Ed Zanders was describing our technology as one of the leading features inside the Z8. So it is a different approach to video encoding. The ActImagine is a French company, and they came out of the French Telecom Institute, and their approach to encoding was that energy consumption would be an issue in phones, and therefore they've come up with a totally different scheme, which, by the way, by accident, equals H.264 in function and in quality. The Z8, for example, has 30 frames per second as a bit rate. The other thing about a proprietary format is it's easier to protect. And we're not so much TV as video. We're more geared toward site download to the PC, which is an experience the consumer knows how to download to the PC, download it to your SD card. The smartphones come today with 4 gig SD cards, so you can have 15 movies on your SD card. The phones come also with TV out, which would solve the little screen problem. I'm in this hotel, I don't like the game that's being played last night. I want to watch a movie. I take one of the 15 movies that I would like to watch during the next year. So our approach is much more video than TV, but it answers, I hope, partly the question you asked me earlier on: why do we need another video codec?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that one of the things that's interesting here is you're introducing distribution model here into the mix, right? Because we can talk about, you know, media flow and DVH, and, you know, boy, is the streaming experience, you know, good enough on HSDPA, blah, blah, blah. But you're saying, hey, you know what, people buy packaged goods all the time. Here's a little tiny packaged good for your phone with a movie on it. And I suppose that if you're going to watch The Godfather on your phone, you definitely want to make sure it doesn't use a lot of power, because it's a long movie.
It's a long movie.
Yeah. But so that raises a kind of open things up, and I'm thinking Chandra and Sam might be the first folks to have some perspective on this, but everybody weigh in here. So, what are you seeing in terms of the use cases and the popularity of the content that's out there now, right? I would say that one thing that characterizes the mobile video market is it's really been highly vendor-driven. Lots and lots of billions of dollars being spent to make it happen on the handset and the network, et cetera. But what are we seeing from the consumer perspective?
From the consumer perspective, in terms of what are they watching?
What are they watching? What are they doing? How do you think about programming for mobile in a way that may or may not be different than the other channels like online or
Sure.
broadcast TV?
Well, I think one of the beauties of having a property like Fox Sports is that we're able to bring regional and information that's important to the consumer because of where they are in the U.S. If you want to watch your local team, you want to see what your folks are up to, we can provide that on a level that no one else in the market really can. And that's what matters to you. Yes, it's great to understand from a larger perspective, but I think what people want is video that resonates with them, that's relevant to them. And so something like Fox Sports can really deliver that today.
From our perspective, we let each of our local television stations that we partner with program channels. Some of them are producing some made-for-mobile content. Most are doing a bit of repurposing of clips that they are either posting on their websites or making available as part of a regular newscast. They'll cut that out, and we'll take care of getting that on the mobile phone for them. And it may not sound, you know, really sexy, but what folks are really tuning in for, about 40% of them are watching local news. And then we've got another nearly 30% that are coming in to see the weather. So again, it's those things, very much like you're saying. It's okay. What are the things that are impacting my life day to day? Not going on somewhere far off or distant, but what's the weather going to be today, tomorrow, this week? I want to see what the Doppler radar is doing right now, or you know, what's happening with that latest breaking news. Those are the things that people are tuning in for, as well as traffic information and other things. But it's the things that people can use to improve their daily lives.
And it sounds like things that can be viewed quickly and kind of at the spur of the moment when, you know, I've got a little bit of downtime, I can whip out the phone and watch something. And if it's a news report, it's probably being looped on a continuous basis. Traffic's obviously a real-time element.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point, and I should explain that everything that we're doing now is on a VOD basis. So everything we're doing is, hey, I want to watch this clip, or I want to see that clip. So it's really empowering the user to only select the content that they're most interested in, as opposed to the more linear model where I get what I get when I happen to tune in.
So we'll come back to kind of linear versus on demand, but I'm curious about something you said there, Brad, which is I said a lot of fingers in the pie, right? So you've got content providers, people who are doing the carrier, you know, maybe now if we're talking about made for mobile content, a whole other set of costs in terms of creating that content. And we've heard from, you know, at this event from Lucy Hood years past about, you know, mobisodes, and I just heard a couple weeks ago from CBS, like made for mobile. What is your experience in terms of the relative popularity of that made for mobile content versus something you repurpose from another medium?
I think the made for mobile content is attracted to a lot of the users because they're actually making it for the screen size, and they're making it for the time that a person that has the phone, you know, has the time to look at it on the phone. So I think you should see more and more people developing the made for mobile type content. News and traffic and stuff, that's pretty easy to put onto a mobile. But if you've got some type of entertainment type content, I think it's better to have it made for a mobile. Like your Godfather example, I don't think people are going to sit down and watch The Godfather on the but they might watch, you know, a video joke of the day or something on their phone. They might do that, or they might watch like the 24. When Fox did the 24, and they had the 1-minute episodes of 24 as a teaser to watching the Monday evening show.
But I think there's room for major broadcasts to be on your mobile, because you have things like breaking events, such as either your local news or, again, to sports. If you want to know what's going on with the game, you know, by the time you get home or get to that larger platform, you could very well have been exposed to the answer that you don't want to know. And I think that we should and could have the availability to bring some of these products to you on demand, live, you know, products. And I think that that's very relevant as well.
I think also the user-generated content will grow a lot. We've seen some examples in the UK on that, and that's also been quite popular and also incentivize the ones who are creating the content, getting some back that will sort of add to the bill with the operator. So that model, I think we will see a lot more of as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the threes work with CME TV and things like that have shown there's an appetite for that. That's what I think our data would show in the U.S. But interesting, I mean, looking to Europe, it is, we don't do it quite as much as we used to, but it used to be really fashionable to talk about how far behind the U.S. market was from the European market. If you grant on some dimensions, the European market's a little ahead in terms of video, which, you know, is perhaps arguable. There was some research that we conducted with Tellabs that was released around 3GSM that this wasn't great news. It found that basically there were more former mobile TV and video users than current mobile TV and video users. Right? And it indicated an issue of really high churn. About 45% users said they stopped watching because of pricing, to Chandra's point. Nearly a quarter of them said they tried it, but they frankly just thought the experience sucked, right? Quality, reliability, et cetera. You know, Helene, what is your experience that you might have from seeing what's happening in Europe? And are the pricing, the quality, are those things that the people on the panel are concerned about being an inhibitor to the US market?
I think so too, and there are a lot of to sort of fix in the user experience to keep these users, and it's all the way from having a programming guide that is fast, that you can change channels like you change on the TV at home. We have done some development on that area, which we think is sort of enhancing the usability for the consumer, but also having a 3G phone and having the quality in the network, that is really also important for the experience. But then also having the price point at the right point. I mean, we see it's around $5 to $10 a month for certain video and mobile TV subscriptions in Europe. If you add on, if you also on top of that have a high data plan, I mean that sort of put barriers into the mass market and maybe to the youth market where you sort of are limited in your spending. So there are a lot of factors that we need to look into.
Now, I mean, Chandra described something Sprint's doing, which is adding a couple channels to your basic data package. Something that you've seen any European carriers do?
Yes, and we see the subscription model is sort of coming more and more, and that seems to be the model that people are used to. That's how they pay for their cable, TV at home, etc. But there are still different type of models where you pay per minute, etc. So there are still some work that needs to be done there. But it seems like the subscription model is sort of what you
pay per minute. With CompuServe.
Well, just for example, BT Movio, I asked them what they're charging, and you can get a free phone, you get free 5 channels of television, you get free radio, 300 minutes of calling, and 300 SMS text messages for £25 a month. That's all inclusive in their package. Or you can buy the phone separately for £99, and then it's $5 a month or £5 a month for the TV service. So they have a bunch of different packages that are available to the consumers.
You know, what do you think is going to unlock this market? Are we at, speaking about the U.S. experience, right? Is it, you sporadically see maybe some marketing from a carrier around mobile TV or video, pretty sporadically, right? I mean,
music is what they're focused
is awareness still a barrier? Have we solved the technology problems? Is it really now just an issue of figuring out the right business model and how to deliver it?
I think the awareness is one big thing. Came out some study here earlier this week as well, where they had gone through all the big carriers and had users trying to find and sign up for the mobile TV service through the net. And for many of the carriers, most of the users needed help to first find the service on the deck and then to how to sign up. So I think the usability on sort of having the people selling the phones in the stores trained on the service, and then also having a very user approach to how you present your services on the deck, that is key to this. And we have done a lot of studies also in other services, for example on MMS, which has had a slower uptake here, but where we now see that this is now growing a lot, and that is due to that we have trained people in the stores with the operators we work on. So it's a lot about educating the users and understand sort of where and how you do that.
I think there's a natural ramp. It's not one. It's a myriad of things that are coming together. It's the networks moving to faster and more throughput. It's the handsets having the capability. It's the usability once you have the handset that has that capability, and it's also the programming. And when those things come together, then you'll start to have a lot of promotion around it. I think right now the carriers are focused on music, and video is going to be, over the next couple of years, going to become a real focus, I think.
Well, I think you just described what's typically the set of barriers for just about every mobile service, right? It is sometimes a very unfortunately complex marketplace. Well, but here's a question, right? If pricing has been agreed upon as one barrier, right? What about advertising? What about making this stuff free and getting the upside off the ad revenue? We did some research with the Marketing Association, and of the people that watched or said they were likely to maybe taste and check out mobile video or TV, like 40% of them said they definitely would if it was free, and they'd watch an ad in order to do it. 20%, said it didn't have to be free, but if it was cheaper and ad supported. How do you see advertising fitting into this mix? And is that the silver bullet?
We have done some work there as well, as I mentioned before, in Norway, but I think also what we have heard from consumers are that if they have these micro moments where they want to go in and snack and look at short episodes, they don't want to be disturbed of general advertising. So I think we have to be really smart on how we do that. And I think if we can connect this with the person itself and the location where they are, and we demoed the solution at CTIA in Orlando earlier this year, on where we use the assets and the information in the network and make that available to the content provider so that you can more direct the advertising to the individual and where they are, and that makes more sense, and that's exactly what we've seen in this trial we've done now for a year in Norway, that the click-through is higher because it's more relevant to the users.
Yeah, Chandra.
I think there's an opportunity for advertising, but I don't think it will subsidize this anytime soon. I think we're a ways away before advertising can really and make this a free experience for video anyway. I think we're ways off.
Is that a chicken and egg issue around audience size, you think, or?
Yeah, I think it's probably a mix of things. It's education for users, it's education for advertisers, it's the contextual advertising, it's making sure that we're getting the data that we need so that we can program the right ads around the right programming. I think there's just a lot of data that's needed, and then the ability to mine that data that just isn't there today in order to do that.
I would completely agree. I mean, advertising, there's a lot of talk about advertising, but it's certainly not a silver bullet. It's, and one only needs to look at how long it really took advertising on the web to grow to be meaningful. And we're at the early years of that. So when you look at the penetration levels and you look at the user experience, which we've already seemed to agree, can improve, advertising will certainly help, and it's definitely in the mix of what's going to happen, but it's going to take a while.
All right, so we're hearing tons. Did you want to comment on that, Henry?
Yeah, it shouldn't be surprising that I'm coming to look at it from the audio side, and then I'm venturing a little bit into space that I don't have the numbers for. But if you compare the audio space and then you look at what is similar to television, radio. How much radio has developed in the audio space today on mobile or on the internet? I'm asking the question, but I think it's less than 10% at least of the audio experience on the internet and on mobile. So if we're focusing on TV, I think we're focusing on the most difficult part of the market. Because it will come. I very much believe in radio, anywhere, anytime, and there are very interesting initiatives going on. But the audio space that started 10 years ago is only there today. And if we're focusing on TV, I think we're focusing on the solution that might be available 5 years from now. That's why we are focusing on video only, on the download model that people know. If I buy this expensive thing that says Nokia on it or it says Sprint on it, then I'll go to these guys and see if they have something. Or I go to the content owners, or I go to Google, Yahoo. Those are, I would say, but I'm not specifically looking, I think, for immediate content. I want to take it with me. And as this could compete with the DVD player, with the PVR. In the earlier panel discussion, somebody said, look at this as a mini computer. It is, and that's what the Nokia people like to say. That's why they like to say it. They're totally right. This is a mini computer, and it could replace all those functions of all those devices that we have at home. I'm showing normally this device with a TV out cable, but you can very easily imagine that wireless. It'll come, and then this thing has it all. So I'm doubting whether TV is the first application if I compare it to the audio experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair perspective, and I think specifically if you look at the internet multimedia developed, it was audio first, right? Then it was video, and we're seeing some of that. The difference, I mentioned the vendor-driven nature of I mean, Qualcomm has just spent a truckload of money building a network to enable this. One of the kind of big questions in my mind is, I mean, it's very much been a field of dreams approach. We're going to build it, and people are going to show up and use it. Maybe. I think what I've heard from the panel, and I'd like to hear from the audience next, is bullish on various flavors of video and TV, and more one than the other, depending on who we talk to up here. But let's be sober about this, because there's still a lot of good news, lots of headroom for this market to grow, but don't get overexcited about it maybe quite yet. It's funny because I think the tenor of this panel would have been less sober 2 years ago, which is interesting perspective. So I'm curious if there are people in the audience here that would like to ask our panelists questions or have comments. Raise your hand and we will get a microphone out to you. If you could just tell us who you are and ask away.
My name's Gal Kaplan of Big Band Networks. I think a major question probably a lot of people here are asking themselves is, how long is it before mobile TV and video actually take off? Meaning you'll see the number of subscribers going beyond just a few million, which is currently the worldwide number. I think it's 6 right now. So I'm curious to see what people think about that.
I'm curious, how would you define take off? Because if you look across mobile data services, with the exception of text messaging, there are some services like photo messaging that have broken the 10% barrier, ringtones too. But if you look at, say, games, right? Games is a sub 10%, is a single-digit number in terms of monthly penetration of people downloading new stuff. So what's the metric where you go, woo, we got takeoff?
The problem metric is that it actually makes money, because right now I think nobody's made any money off of it at all. So you'd probably need about 100 million subscribers to start making money off of it, is my gut feeling, worldwide.
But isn't this also about the money we put into this? I mean, there is a lot of different standards out there and a lot of networks that are built separately. And I mean, our stand from Ericsson is that we have a big network out there already. So why invest in this, all these different ones? And we also see within the telecom how the standards are to, because the cost of the handsets and sort of have the availability of all these handsets for these different standards. So I think the industry needs to come together also to make it possible to make money in this and for the users to be able to pay for what we want to get out of it.
Chandra, Sam, you guys have the content. Have you made any money off of mobile video and TV?
Yeah, mobile video TV represents a strong part of our revenue. And yeah, it's working out well for us.
We, as I said, we started with it as an experiment, and I should be clear that we started with it not doing video first, and that was a decision that we made because the networks weren't ready, the handsets didn't have multimedia players built into them on any sort of large scale, and so we launched first in 2005, and we added video in 2006 as the networks and the handsets started to penetrate. And so again, you go back to that mix of things that has to happen, and I think it will take off. But circling back, we are making money. We've gone, you know, we're a multi-million-dollar business now from nothing over the course of a year or so, a couple of years. So there is money to be made, and it is going to take time to get to the types of numbers that you're talking about. But I think realistically, this is it's still a new market, and there's lots of upside.
I think you're going to start seeing the money being made when when handsets have a standardized format so that you can actually accept the broadcasts coming from a number of different places.
And well, I'd like to take a little broader view on it. That it is the same question in any entertainment market. Content has to be suitable, price has to be right, and quality has to be decent. And again, I tend to make comparisons with the audio world. In the audio world, MP3 was sufficient quality. Today we don't have sufficient quality. Content didn't need to be repurposed in audio. In video, it has to be repurposed. I mean, The Godfather on a video phone, just to watch it on a video phone, I have to admit I didn't do it, and I will probably fall asleep before it's over. But would I like to see MASH in short version, repurpose MASH, or Desperate Housewives to get up to speed where they are now? That type of content, I think, will drive consumers, and the content isn't there. I think that's why we're not yet seeing a big takeoff. I believe very much in sports, though. I think that is right. If you're somewhere where you're not near a television, it would be great to be able to follow your favorite game on the phone. But I think that we'll see a longer development for content to come to the phone.
Great. I think we've got a question.
Yeah, I have
over there?
question. My name is George Brady. I'm with the Arbitron Company, and this session is talking a lot about content and providing it. However, the who's watching part is the part I'm interested in, and who's providing the data that you want to find out who's watching. Where are you getting your data? What types of data are you looking for so that you can begin to create your ad sales model or your subscription models, and then how are you going to use that data moving forward?
I think the thing that was that we constantly hear is how this is such a young market. It's only the teens that are using it. It's only this class of folks. Now maybe it's the type of content that we're offering, news and whatnot, but some of the demographics that we're able collect on our own is our audience is on average 65% male. These are 45% classify themselves as professional executives or sales folks. And from an age perspective, nearly half, 48% are between the ages of 30 and 49. And then another nearly 20% are between 18 and 29. So that's some of the demographics that we're collecting on our own directly. And we think that's a very good demographic to have, and it's certainly one that we can build on.
And I think you can also get a lot out of the systems and see the usage, and also you can use different, for example, promotion engines where consumers opt in and give information about themselves in return for something, of course, probably. But we are, for other type of data, we do quite a lot of data mining to see the purchasing behaviors and to do sort of more promotions based on that information. So, and we see how we can drive the uptake through more intelligent data mining around the usage.
Great. Did you have a follow-up? Or
well, yeah, I mean, kind of actually maybe more specifically for Chandra as well, since you are kind of driving this from the Fox perspective, is that, you know, how are you going to go out and monetize this from an advertising sales perspective? Because you guys can gather all the data and, you know, do you have I guess I would say an industry supplier that is going to begin to, an unbiased supplier to provide data?
So we're working with partners to figure out advertising solutions across the different products in mobile. I think in general, you have too much data, and you have to be able to aggregate that data across the board. You need to be able to get as much out of the carriers as humanly possible. You know, that's in terms of how you're indexing versus your competitors. What are the hours that folks are watching, et cetera. You then want to pair that with the data that you're able to capture internally. What are the clips that are driving the most viewing? You know, what are people interested in? How does changing placement affect viewership? I think you need to compile all of that data, much the way we would for any of our web metrics that have allowed Fox Interactive Media to be one of the biggest provider of, you know, sales opportunities in the world, and then leverage that into mobile. You know, Fox is very, very good at selling media, and we don't see mobile as being any different from that. We're just, you know, in the very beginning stages of that, and we're looking forward to taking everything that we've learned in broadcast and in web and applying that to mobile.
I won't do a commercial, but I will just say that M-Metrics, we provide a lot of data on this market. But you're right, I mean, the notion that you need to be able to measure stuff in order to get people to buy into it is really critical. And it's just starting to happen, I think. We're seeing, to Sam's point, huge noise about advertising. You know, it's going to happen. It is happening. The noise is outstripping the reality right now, because billions of mobile ads have been served, just no one knows who the hell saw them, which from a brand perspective is a bit of a problem. There's another question. Yes?
Yeah, Greg Smith, BDC Capital. I'm always looking for interesting holes in the system. Maybe really directed at Chandra. You know, it's difficult to buy and purchase content on your mobile phone. I got to believe that using the internet combined with the mobile platform and figuring out what people want and sending it to them and stuff has got to be something you guys focus on at Fox. How are you guys doing that, and is that sort of in its early stages, or is that something you guys already have in terms of the ability to do that? Really leverage your internet properties with the ability to deliver mobile content.
So that's basically what FIM Mobile is doing today. We leverage all of our web properties into the mobile space, and so we see our online properties as part of our overall mobile strategy. So you'll see us use all of the eyeballs and traffic to drive as much viewership or as much adoption to our WAP properties or our Java properties from the website. In terms of sharing content, obviously we're leveraging all of that web content into mobile as well. And so we see a very natural synergistic relationship for interactive properties into the mobile space.
So what we are working together with Turner quite a lot. We have launched their web portals for Adult Swim, Cartoon Networks, and international CNN. So we are working quite a lot with them as well to see sort of how can we mobilize their content.
We put in with every one of the stations that we work with, they add a link to a custom page where you can select your phone, enter your phone number, and hit submit. It sends a text message to you that deep links directly to the purchase page. So it removes all the navigation on the handset to make it easy. We also have a short code for my TV or 46988 that is going to enable folks to quickly subscribe using that mechanism. Just by sending the station call letters to the For My TV short code, they'll get a response back with a quick deep link.
That's very cool. I think we're going to have to end it there. I'd like to thank you all for your attention and ask you to join me in our panelists. Thanks very much.